Hello and welcome back to another episode of FlightSim Alaska. I'm Dave. Today we're in the Icon A5 sitting in Skelak Lake, just east of Kenai on the Kenai Peninsula. We're pointed west, but we want to go east towards the Kenai Lake. So what we're going to do is start taking off here. And again, we're headed west, and then we're gonna come around. A couple of factoids here about Skelak Lake. It's about 15 miles long and 4 miles wide, and maybe 530 feet deep at its deepest point. It is road connected, so it's a very popular tourist destination. Just today, a colleague was telling me that she was headed out over the long Memorial Day weekend to go take out a small sailboat. So that sounds like fun. But just sort of point out how popular of a destination it is. Now, Skelak Lake, I think the name itself must come from the Russian. It just doesn't. It's not a Denina name. And if you look at Jim Carrey's Denina Topical Index, the local Denina at the Baskin name is Kaes Didilan Bena, and I apologize for sort of butchering that. I am not a linguist, and so that's the best I got. And what that means is flows to Outlet Lake. So where we're headed right now is there are two major inflows to the Skelak Lake. The Kenai River, Skelak Lake is part of the Kenai River watershed or river system. And then the other inflow is Skelak Lake, which is fed by Skelak Glacier. And what I want to do today is I want to fly up towards Skelak Glacier and scope that out. So right now we're just heading towards the east over Skelak Lake, this little ridge here, which I don't know the name of that ridge, but it sure looks good. I have not been here myself, but this looks pretty authentic. You know, you'd expect this to be thick brush. I'm not 100% sure what it might be, like maybe willows and alders and that sort of thing, or maybe pushki and devil's club. And if you've never been treated to that, that's fantastic. I'll talk about that later when we get towards southeast, I think. So here we are heading towards the eastern edge of Skelak Lake. And man, I cannot say enough about the color of this lake. It's in real life, it's just this brilliant turquoise. And I feel like as I fly over this, maybe it's hard to see on the video, that you really get something similar. And I'm super pleased by that. It makes me very happy. Off to our left here, you can see you can see the Sterling Highway curving around towards Cooper Landing, which is where we're headed, and then the Kenai River, which ends in all these braids of river that flow into the lake. And then off here, just off our nose, we're headed towards the Skelak River, and that begins a section of the sim that I find profoundly underwhelming, and honestly I'm a little disappointed, and I shouldn't be. It's kind of stupid. I can go anywhere in the universe, in the whole world that is, but the one place I really wanted to look pretty good looks pretty awful. But it's okay. I think it's as we can fly through here, we can talk about that a bit, and I can explain what it really looks like. And also, if you're into FlightSim and you're doing this yourself, I think this is a cool place to go, and especially with live weather turned on. I don't right now because this looks the best, but live weather when it's turned on is makes this area really a lot of fun. Now, one of the things I will say is fairly true to life is if you look up this river valley here, all this dust, and that's pretty common. It's not red like this. It tends to be more gray. This is a slate color. But in the summertime, particularly in the spring as well, you get winds that come off of the glacier and whip over these mud flats and whip up all this dust in. So this looks pretty realistic. I have no idea if that's just kind of an accident, but this is what it might look like. Now as we look down towards where the river comes into the lake, so this is again the Skelak River. This is just pretty straight. Obviously you can tell that's not really how it works. You see all these braided channels here and windy bits of creek, I guess. Those are riverbeds that the Skilak River was in or is in. And so realistically, this river would come through and it would fill several of these channels as it flowed into the lake there, the Skelak Lake. I mean, I'm glad that we can see all these channels. That's pretty awesome. But it's a little annoying that the river itself just kind of cuts straight through. That's something of a disappointment. So we're heading towards the glacier now, and it almost looks from here that we're actually pointed right at the glacier. That's not the glacier. Or maybe it is in real life. I don't know. I've not been up here, but what I do know is that the sim renders a bunch of crap weird. And normally you see at the foot of a glacier lakes and extended river mud banks that are gray and silty and rocky and that kind of stuff. And I think what we've got going on here is a mix of lake and silty riverbed and that kind of stuff, and maybe perhaps a bit of the foot of the glacier as well, all mixed up and confusing the sim. And it seems to me that the imagery in this area is particularly poor. Everywhere I've flown in the state so far, the imagery has been super good, and I feel like true enough to life that I'm satisfied. Through here, this is pretty good, but as we advance through Kenai Lake, it's more problematic. And again, I'm whining about this weird ridge of water. It's just annoying. And of course, these stitching artifacts from the sim too. That's kind of annoying. It kind of interrupts the whole flow, but maybe someday they'll figure that out. So now, I don't know what's going on with this lake again. I feel like this is actually a mix of things. But we're looking over at Skelak Glacier, and I love how this looks. It's got all these crags and ridges and things like this. And of course, the Skelak Glacier comes from the Harding ice field. It's sort of it comes out of there. And we'll do the Harding ice field in a later video for sure, because it's a big, interesting feature of the Kenai Peninsula. And I apologize here. I'm fighting with this aircraft. I'm too busy talking and not busy enough paying attention to what's going on. So here we are again, looking at Skelak Glacier, getting a bit of chop from the mountains, which is legit even in calm weather like this. But I love how this looks. I want to get a little closer here before I turn around and head back towards the Kenai River. This looks super good to me. So yeah, this is the Skelak Glacier. And if you've ever driven past a glacier, you know that it looks a lot like this. This is so authentic looking for a simulator. It's remarkable. I just wish this silly lake were where it was supposed to be and what it was supposed to be. So I guess at this point we'll go ahead and swing around and we'll head back towards the Kenai River. So towards the Kenai River, or where we're headed right here, is we're going to go down this valley, and down this valley is where the Russian River comes in. And the Russian River is, like the Kenai River, an important fishery, sockeye salmon and rainbow trout. So that's where we're headed, and we're going to head towards the Russian River Ferry, which is where people on the Sterling Highway come over the Kenai River and then over to the Russian River so they can come up this valley and do their fishing. And there's a lot of bears up in here. My father-in-law send us pictures. He'll be up here fishing and send us pictures of the bears just across the river there. And this fishery really is amazing for all kinds of stuff, but for the trout, my father-in-law's got pictures of 24-inch rainbow trout up in here that are just the size of a salmon. Honestly, they're very, very large, impressive fish. And he's a sport fisherman, so he's a catch and release guy. And that's not that's actually sort of a thing up here. You know, there's a lot of people that feel like you don't play with your food. You know, they catch the food to catch the animals to eat them, and yeah, it's interesting. That's a bit of the politics here. So let's look to the right here, and over here we can't really see it. This is the Upper Russian River is up in here, or Upper Russian Lake, that is, up in here, and we'll come by that here in a second and have a look. But up over here, there's something of a continental divide. The water on one side of this ridge comes this way down the Russian River into the Kenai and then the Cook Inlet, and on the other side, the water moves into the Resurrection River, which goes into Resurrection Bay and the Gulf of Alaska. So, and that's, I guess I thought that was interesting. And also, this is sort of where the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge, which is where we're at now, separates from the Kenai Fjords National Parks on the other side. There you can see that Upper Russian Lake there, and kind of aimed towards the Russian River right now. And so the plan is to go through this valley here and then end up at the Russian River Ferry, and I'll point that out, and then we'll head east towards Cooper Landing. So while I guess I fly over there, I'm gonna leave you for a second, and then I'll come back and we'll talk when I get on the other side of the Lower Russian Lake and towards that Russian River Ferry. So here we are headed towards the Russian River Ferry, and I don't know if it renders in at all here, and it doesn't matter that much. But to the left of these two clearings here, we're sort of pointing at a weird building thing, and to the right of that, it's a parking lot, and a bunch of people parked there. And then they come down here to this other area, and that's where folks come across to access the Russian River and up that valley we just came. In the summertime, when it's fishing season, this highway here, it's packed, and it's hard to even drive through because people come to that Russian River Ferry and then headed down towards Kenai for their sockeye fishing. So here we are headed towards Cooper Landing over the Kenai River and the Sterling Highway. Off to the right here is another annoying artifact of the FlightSim, which is sort of this crazy pillar. I thought it was a lake, and I looked all over the place to find out what lake it was, and I feel like it's actually just sort of a slough of the Kenai River here. And the Kenai River does, well, I guess the highway, the Sterling Highway, follows the Kenai River here, and it's really gorgeous to drive through. I feel like I've driven through a couple of other situations like that in my lifetime, but this one is gorgeous. The river is gorgeous. So we're heading into Cooper Landing right now, and one of the key industries in Cooper Landing is tourism, and specifically guiding, river guiding, and cabins and that kind of stuff. And since the Kenai Kings have kind of dried up and blown away, they've had to look at other stuff. This year, it's been tough because of the COVID. But a lot of these guys in here, these guides, they're small families, and so you have all these small businesses in here and local families doing the guiding deal and trying to make it work. And I feel like that's actually pretty cool. That's what goes on in here, is huge corporations doing that. But all that said, directly in front of us is this huge chunk of buildings, and that's the Kenai Princess Lodge. So if you come up to do some tourism with Princess Tours, and you come into the Kenai Peninsula, there's a very high chance you're going to stay here. And this place is, I feel like it's new, but it's not. It's been there for like 25 years. It was new when I worked in tourism in Kenai, or in Seward. But it is, I mean, it does have a spectacular view. I mean, look at this. In real life, again, this is very craggy and gorgeous, but this is so true to life that you can kind of get a sense of what's going on here. From the highway, you actually can't see that place. You see the exit to go over the bridge to it, but you don't actually, you can't see the actual lodge, or at least I don't remember seeing the lodge. Somebody could correct me on that, but that's what I remember. So we're pointed over the Kenai River still, and we're headed towards the Kenai Lake. And I think this is where we're going to land today, a fairly short video. From here, I'll probably take off and head towards Seward. I think I'm going to do it via Moose Pass, which sounds sort of counterintuitive. We could come through the lake and then just go right towards Primrose. But that doesn't render well, and I wish I understood why, but there's just nothing to see there. It's just sort of plain, boring video game textures. So we'll go north. We'll head towards the Trail Lakes and Moose Pass, and then we'll come down towards Seward. And Seward is another disappointment. It doesn't render in, but Resurrection Bay renders in well enough that it's definitely worth looking at. And then we'll head up towards the Harding Icefield, and then back over to the west side of Cook Inlet, and then we'll do some other cool stuff after that. So that's the general plan. In the meantime, I guess we'll fly into Kenai Lake. Again, with the artifacts, you can see that the beach is way lower than the water, and that's annoying, obviously. But I can say for sure in this lake that what's really going on here is that the land is above the water by about the same amount it's below the water here. So I guess if curious about this place, that's something to think about. So here we are, gonna set down just shy of Quartz Creek, and there's a landing strip over there. It's one of the few in this region in the sim, which is unfortunate because there's a bunch of strips through here, and most of the strips, landing strips, are they're defined in the game. There's places that shouldn't be in there that are, and then we got places that should be that aren't. So is what it is. So better check my stuff here. Oh, we're good to go. So as we come in for a landing, I feel like I've said what I need to say for the moment, and I don't think you need to hang out for the whole landing. It's probably going to be a disaster anyways. And so we'll catch you in the next video. We're going to take off from Kenai Lake and head towards Resurrection Bay, Seward, and Fox Island. So if you like the video, hit that like button. If you want to see what's coming next, hit subscribe. And if you want to know when it happens, hit the notification button. And we'll see you in the next video.